Hello, and welcome to Introduction to Psychology. In today's session, we will continue our exploration of learning. The session will follow the outline shown. You will remember from last time that associative learning is linking things together in memory. That is, making a mental connection between things. We tend to link together things that co-occur. That is, our minds naturally connect things that happen close together in time. You will also remember that behavior change induced by associative learning is known as conditioning. In the last session, we looked at classical conditioning, the process by which a learned association made between two stimuli gives one stimulus the capacity to evoke a reflex similar to the reflex originally evoked by the other. In this session, we will look at operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is the process by which a learned association made between a voluntary behavior and its consequence alters the frequency of that behavior. Operant conditioning can be dated back to the work of Edward Lee Thorndike. Thorndike was using an apparatus known as a puzzle box to study trial and error learning in animals. Trial and error learning involves trying out different ways of solving a problem until a successful method is found. A puzzle box was a small wooden crate with a hinged door that had an opening mechanism, for example, a lever, a pole, a platform, or a piece of string, somewhere inside the box. The first time the experimental subject, a cat, a dog, or a chicken, was placed inside the box, it would explore the chamber in a haphazard way, clawing at the bars, biting the crate, walking around the box, etc., until it would eventually open the door by accident. Gradually, over trials, the ineffective responses would disappear, and the effective response, the behavior that opened the door, would become more frequent, resulting in faster and faster escape times. Thorndike explained this learning using his law of effect. That is, in any given situation, actions that have satisfying consequences are more likely to be repeated in that situation, while actions that have dissatisfying consequences are less likely to be repeated in that situation. Thorndike's work on trial and error learning was expanded on by Burrhus Frederick Skinner. While Thorndike's experiments used puzzle boxes, Skinner's experiments used operant chambers. An operant chamber is a laboratory apparatus consisting of a cage with a food dispenser, an electrified floor, response levers, and lights. Puzzle boxes only allow for one trial at a time. Once the subject has opened the door, the trial ends and the subject must be placed back inside the box. Operant chambers allow for multiple trials. Subjects are placed in the apparatus for a fixed amount of time, and they can operate the lever as many times as they like within that time. As a result of his research, Skinner formalized the basic terms and procedures of what he called operant learning. That is, how the strength of a behavior is modified by the consequences of that behavior. The most fundamental terms used in operant conditioning are reinforcement and punishment. Reinforcements are consequences that increase the likelihood of a behavior. Punishments are consequences that decrease the likelihood of a behavior. Whether something is reinforcing or punishing depends upon the individual. For example, if you like blue cheese, then blue cheese would be a reinforcement. But if you don't like blue cheese, then it would be a punishment. Reinforcements and punishments can either be primary or secondary. Primary reinforcements or punishments are physiological in nature. They influence the body, for example, food, water, heat, or pain. Secondary reinforcements or punishments are psychological in nature. They influence the mind, for example, money or threats. Skinner discovered 4 methods of operant conditioning. That is, he discovered 4 ways in which consequences can be used to alter the frequency of behaviors. With positive reinforcement, a targeted behavior is made more likely by presenting, adding, something pleasant. For example, if a child is given a gold star for tidying his room, then this would make it more likely that he would tidy his room in the future. With negative reinforcement, a targeted behavior is made more likely by removing, subtracting, something aversive. For example, if an annoying buzzer switches off when a woman fastens her seatbelt, then this would make it more likely that she would fasten her seatbelt in the future. With positive punishment, a targeted behavior is made less likely by presenting, adding something aversive. For example, if a girl is spanked for being rude, then this would make it less likely that she would be rude in the future. With negative punishment, a targeted behavior is made less likely by removing, subtracting, something pleasant. For example, if a girl has her tablet confiscated for pushing her brother over, then this would make it less likely that she would be aggressive in the future. Skinner also discovered 4 sets of rules to determine when rewards or punishments could be delivered. These are known as conditioning schedules. Ratio schedules are rule plans based on the number of responses. With a fixed ratio schedule, rewards or punishments are delivered on the basis of the number of target behaviors performed. For example, a production line worker who is paid for every 3 garments she makes would be on a fixed ratio schedule. With a variable ratio schedule, rewards or punishments are still delivered on the basis of the number of target behaviors performed, but the number of target behaviors necessary is unpredictable. For example, a person playing a slot machine is on a variable ratio schedule. Sometimes it will take just 1 play to get the machine to pay out, while other times it will take numerous plays to get the machine to pay out. Interval schedules are rule plans based on the passage of time. With a fixed interval schedule, the first target behavior after a fixed amount of time has elapsed is reinforced or punished. That is, once a reward or punishment has been given, a clock starts and no more rewards or punishments are given until a certain amount of time has elapsed. For example, a child who has a weekly allowance would be on a fixed interval schedule. Requests for their allowance before the week is up result in no reward, but the first request for their allowance after the week is up is rewarded. With a variable interval schedule, target behaviors are still reinforced or punishment based on the passage of time, but the amount of time between rewards or punishments is unpredictable. For example, anyone who has a Tinder account is on a variable interval schedule. That is, sometimes your account will show new matches only seconds after the last time you checked it, while other times it can take hours or days for new matches to appear. To conclude our exploration of learning, we will look at social learning. Social learning is learning through interaction with other people. Instruction is an example of social learning. You are all now learning about a topic by interacting with me. You're listening to what I'm saying. Another example of social learning is observational learning. Observational learning is learning not by listening to others, but by watching others. Watching others allows you to learn both what other people do and the consequences of their actions. For example, if you observe a man getting admiring glances after doing a fancy dance move, then you learn both the action, the move, and gain the knowledge that the action leads to a reward of admiring glances. Whether or not observational learning, learning what people do, leads to imitation, copying what people do, depends on 4 things. Firstly, you must pay attention to what the other person, the model, does. Secondly, you must remember what the other person did. Thirdly, you must have the physical capability of doing what the model did. And fourthly, you must want to do what the other model did. We all have a predisposition to imitate. We imitate more if we are rewarded for imitation and less if we are punished for imitation. And we imitate models who are rewarded more than models who are punished. Some of the most famous studies of observational learning were carried out by Albert Bandura in the 1960s. His Bobo doll studies investigated the imitation of aggressive behaviors.